Welcome back. It's week 5 of the Aces Let's Do It podcast, and I'm your host, Dominic Archer. Let's get right into it. We're going to change up the format a little bit. Instead of talking about the NFL to start, we're actually going to move them to the back, just because the leagues around the sports world right now are kind of finishing up, all but the NFL. So we're going to start off by talking about the NBA Finals. There's really no hockey news to report. Talk about the MLB playoffs. Currently, the Astros and Rays are playing right now. I think they're in the bottom of the ninth. So by the time that game is done, the box scores will be up, and we'll discuss those. Yeah, that's about it. Like I said, the NFL is going to be pushed back at the end. So without further ado, let's get right into this thing. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers for beating the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. Also, congratulations to LeBron James for winning MVP of the Finals. He's a great player. One of the best to ever do it. But here is where I'm going to make a hot take that not a lot of people are going to like. He can say that he's the second best player of all time, and I'm not going to have any qualms. But as soon as he starts saying that he's the GOAT, then I've got a little questioning. I mean, Michael Jordan, to me, is the greatest basketball player of all time. He went 6 for 6 in NBA Finals and won 6 MVPs. Now, I know that LeBron has been there more, but to me, Michael was just a better competitor. The way the game was in the 90s, you had to be a lot more physical. Not to say that LeBron isn't a very physical player, because he is. I mean, he's a physical specimen. I don't think the NBA has ever seen a guy so athletically gifted like LeBron James, 6'8", 270 pounds, built like a Greek god. But back in Michael's day, I mean, it was tough. I mean, he was getting beat up and tossed around like rag dolls, and then, he just turned it on, the competitor in him. And I don't think, maybe outside of Kobe, we've ever seen a competitor like Michael Jordan. And you can say that LeBron has more points, more of this, more of that, but LeBron's played longer than Michael has, and he's going to continue to play for at least a couple of years. I mean, let's be honest. LeBron is probably going to end up playing with his son on a team, which I'm actually kind of excited for. Hopefully his son, Bronny, can continue to develop and become a very good basketball player, and hopefully one day he can make it to the NBA and play with his father, because I think that would be a very fun thing to do. It was a little before my time, but I would have loved to see Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Sr. play on the same baseball team. I bet that was a lot of fun for those two guys, and something they'll be able to hold on to and cherish for the rest of their lives. So, with that being said, I've got nothing but respect for LeBron. He's a great player. He does great things off the court. And I just want to congratulate him. He did a great job in the finals. Again, to me, he's the second greatest player of all time. Just from a physical standpoint, like I said, I don't think there's anybody this physically gifted ever to play basketball. He could legitimately play football if he wanted to. Imagine lining him up at tight end at 6 foot, 8, I think he is, and 270 pounds. Just imagine him running routes. And, honestly, he's probably got the speed to play a little bit outside receiver, too. So, he's just a great athlete. And once again, congratulations to him, Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo, former Bull. And, they had a great team, and they're going to be able to compete in the West for some years to come. So, moving along to baseball. The game earlier today, Los Angeles against the Braves. The Braves had a 2-0 lead going into this game, and its final score is 15-3. Atlanta scratched 11 in the first inning, and Atlanta wasn't really able to, make a comeback. I've been saying that, I think Atlanta's going to win, but I don't know, man. Los Angeles just has a stacked lineup 1-9, and their pitching staff's really good. Urias went 5 innings in this game, only giving up a run. He had 5 strikeouts, but, the bullpen for the Dodgers really came in and shut things down. Jensen came in. He had a clean inning. Pedro Baez came in, had a clean inning. Wood came in, had a good inning. Kolarek, he gave up 2 runs in the end, but, they were already up, 14 runs, so it doesn't really matter. But on the flip side, Kyle Wright Only went 2/3 of an inning. That's not a very good sign for Atlanta. When your starter doesn't even make it out of the first inning, unless if you're using an opener, then it's a different situation. But when you throw at a guy who you expect to pitch 6 innings and he only goes out for 2 1/3, that presses your bullpen, man. And kudos to Onya. I mean, he 4 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts in a tough game where he had to come in and had to pick up the slack from the starter. I mean, the starter gave up 7, but Dayton came in and gave up 8, so he had to come in with a 15-run deficit and had to hold things down. So kudos to him. I do think at the end of the day, Atlanta will win this series. I think this is just an off game. But I will not be surprised if Atlanta storms back and wins this series. Like I said again, they've got savages up and down the lineup. I mean, Kenley Jensen, even in his older years, is still one of the best relief pitchers in baseball. They have a great lineup, 1 to 9. You're talking about Betts, Seager, Turner, Muncy, Smith, Bellinger, Peterson, Rios, and Taylor. I mean, the bottom half of that lineup is kind of so-so, but it's a top-heavy lineup. Betts is one of the best players in baseball, period, if not the best player. You have Cody Bellinger, who, had it down here, but he had 2 hits in this game. This is a great lineup. And that's no slouch to the Atlanta. They have a great lineup too, but, oh man, the Dodgers are just so hard to beat. And you do have to tip your hat to the Atlanta Braves for jumping out 2-0, so they might be able to steal this series. But Los Angeles, again, they're, like we said at the beginning of the year, a lot of people picked them to have the best record in baseball. They did. A lot of people were expecting a Yankees-Dodgers showdown. The Yankees got kicked out, so we're not going to see that. But, the Dodgers can make a run. And I'm just wanting for some good baseball. That's all I want. After my Cubs got beat, I just want to see teams who are competent, there we go, in managing clubs to win some games, unlike my Cubs who don't know how to do that. Final here, Houston has won 4-3 over Tampa Bay. I'm not a big fan of Houston as of late. I've made it clear on this podcast that what they did was wrong, and I believe that they should have been punished more than they were. But you do have to tip your hat to Dusty Baker and everyone in that organization because they were in a position where many people were already counting them out before the season even started. I mean, this does have a star-studded lineup between George Springer, Carlos Correa, Altuve, and Bregman. So, I mean, they do have, star power at the top of the lineup. And, Dusty, he's been around for a long time. He knows how to manage games. You can say what you will about his philosophy with the bullpen, but kudos to Dusty getting these guys in the playoffs, and now they're within striking distance. I think it's 2-1 now. And Houston has a great pitching staff. Urquidy last night, when he was pitching, the Rays couldn't hit his curveball. He's got a great breaking ball, and then he comes back with 96 on the black. Oh my goodness! So I mean, they do have talent. This is a very good team. Talking about the Houston Astros here. So, they're going to be able to win some games. I like the Rays lineup a lot. I mean, there's just guys. There's no really superstars on the team outside of maybe Glasnow, who pitched 6 innings in this game and gave up 4 runs. And Meadows is starting to turn into that guy. But, when you look at, like the Dodgers, for example, to exclude, Betts and Bellinger, when they have a guy like Corey Seager, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the league, the Rays don't really have that. They just have guys who are solid hitters and get on base. Chow, he's actually pretty good. I like his game a lot. Manuel Margot, and another guy who's kind of just washed up, top prospect. And he's actually contributing a lot for this team. Aro Zarana, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that. He's also turning into a budding star. He's in .438 in the playoffs. I mean, that dude has raked. He's hit a lot of home runs lately. But I really do hope that I do think the Rays are going to win this game, or this series, rather. I just think they're the better team because they don't have any holes. It's 3-1 that Tampa Bay is up. So, it is good that to Houston to get a game, and it's not over until the fat lady sings. But I think the Rays are going to come back and play even better, and you're going to see them in a fall classic. And Atlanta still does have the 2-1 lead, so I mean, it's only it's a 1-game lead, right? And it's not uncommon. It's actually very common when a team is only down by 1 game, come back and win the series, especially when you're playing against the Dodgers. So if Atlanta wants to win this series, they got to limit the mistakes. I mean, obviously they have to not allow 4 or 11 runs in 1 inning. But, come back, not make the mistake pitch, and start swinging at the mistake pitch. And what I mean by that is on the mound, if you call a fastball up, make sure you don't throw it in his wheelhouse. Make sure you get it out of the zone. And if you're a hitter and you see that a curveball is just spinning and you don't think that it's going to break it all, you need to put it in the seats. And that's the only way Atlanta's going to win this series. And they've shown that in the first 2 games of this series. This game was a little downer, giving up 11 runs in the first inning, but I digress. So that's it for baseball. Like I said again, not a lot of things going on in the sports world, so this podcast might be a little shorter. And now here we go with the majority of the topic for today's podcast. The NFL Week 5. Some interesting things happened this week. I'll go into a little bit of detail, but one of the bigger things was that Dan Quinn was relieved of his duties. I had said that I was surprised that he hadn't already been fired, but Tampa Bay has decided, or not Tampa Bay, Atlanta has decided to part ways with head coach Dan Quinn. So getting into the games, Bears won a tight game, 20-19 on Thursday night, kickoff Week 5. I've been critical of Foles, thinking that he's not the guy. And I went back and watched some of his college tape, and even in college, I can tell that this guy does have a little bit of magic to him. But I didn't ever thought that he would be a long-term answer. I mean, when he came into Philadelphia and lit it up for 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, then maybe, yeah. But here, now, when he's at the age he is, I think he's like 33. And, the Bears gave him a multi-year contract. So they're thinking that he's really going to be the guy. He's 31. They're thinking that he's going to be the guy for a couple of years. I don't know. He's thrown 2 interceptions in his 2 games of play, right? Yeah, I think so. Or maybe 3. 2 and change. I know he's got 2 interceptions. But the Bears' offense needs to be better than this. We know they have a top 5, top 3 defense in the league. And they did hold Tom Brady to, I don't know what you would call it. I hate to say bad game, but it's just not a very good game. The Bears' defense is very good. They can go up against any offensive unit in the league. I believe they can even go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs' offense, the Bears' defense, But this Bears' offense needs to figure out some things. I like David Montgomery, but he only gave him 10 carries. Like, what can you realistically do with 10 carries? He had 10 carries for 29 yards. And, with the loss of Tyreek Cohen, you would think that you would want to give him the ball more. There's more opportunities for him. And he's a capable back out of the backfield too. So I think what you get with Trubisky is the ability to move the pocket and get some of those broken plays completed. Foles doesn't give that to you, and I think that's what the Bears are missing. They're missing that it factor on offense, and they just don't have it. On the flip side, Buccaneers, like I said, Tom Brady didn't have a great game. I wouldn't even call it a meh game. It was just like, I don't know. He was just overmatched, and the 4th down play where he thought it was 3rd down, that put the cherry on top for how that game went. And I think the Bucs are going to be fine. Drew Brees and the Saints haven't looked all that good. With Atlanta firing Dan Quinn, they still do have a very good shot at winning the South. So, this is just one bad game, right? They're going to come back from this. Kicking off Sunday's games, we had Rams against the Washington football team. Dwayne Haskins was benched for Kyle Allen. who in his limited playing time didn't look very particularly good. And then the favorite for comeback player of the year, Alex Smith. Hats off to that guy. That was such a brutal injury. And just to see him be able to get back on the field, and he got tackled, but I think Aaron Donald, we all know how big of a savage that guy is, and he got right back up, which is a very nice sign. However, if you want Alex Smith to be a capable starter, you got to block better for him. They have Brandon Sheriff, who's a very good guard to center. That's about it, though. I mean, they're in the same boat as Cincinnati when it comes to offensive line play. They're just not very good here. So I really like Alex Smith. I think he's a good dude. I think he's a really good player when he's got a supporting cast around him. I mean, who isn't, right? But, here in Washington, he doesn't have that, and I'm skeptical if he ever will. We know this team is going to be able to compete for their first overall draft choice, and Trevor Lawrence might think, you know what, I might stay back at Clemson another year. So if he does decide to do that, I don't know what this team is going to do. I mean, they did draft Dwayne Haskins 7th overall, so you do have to see what you can get out of your investment. I mean, this is only, year and a half in? So you hate to give up on a guy that quick. Antonio Gibson, I like, and they do have Terry McLaurin, so they have a couple of key pieces, but, I don't see Antonio Gibson as an every down back, and the only weapon they have is Terry McLaurin. So it's going to be a very long year for the Washington football team. The people who aren't having a long year are the Los Angeles Rams. They had a bad game last week against the Giants. Come back and now they put up 30 on a capable defense. I mean, Washington has a very good front seven, and Jared Goff is looking really good. I remember when he was drafted first overall and kind of had some struggles his rookie year. People said, "Oh, he's a bust." I was like, "How can you call a guy?" Same thing with Dwayne Haskins. How can you call a guy a bust with a year playing against the best athletes in the world? Of course, there's going to be an adjustment period. Not everybody is able to come into the league and just light it up. Some guys do need to take a year and a half to really understand the speed of the game, and especially at the quarterback position where, he's playing in the Pac-12, not a lot of good defensive talent coming out there, and then he comes to the NFC East, and you have, the Seattles of the world. You have the Patrick Petersons in Arizona, and you have some nice pieces in San Francisco. We know this. So, coming into one of the best divisions in football and struggling your first year didn't really surprise me. I knew he was going to kind of struggle. But, he's turning those haters into believers now. And this is probably outside of the Chiefs and how explosive the Ravens are rather. This is probably one of the best offenses in the NFC. I'm very impressed with them. Next game, Steelers and Eagles. Chase Claypool had himself a day. Steelers are now 4-0, and if Big Ben has another weapon to throw to, watch out. They're probably one of the deepest teams at wide receiver. They got Juju, they got Claypool, they got Johnson, and a couple of other key guys. Eric Ebron is looking like his former self. They have some nice backs. I mean, this is a very good offense. I think they get slept on because, in the AFC, they have the Ravens, they have the Chiefs, and you have the Raiders. People forget that this team consistently puts up points. And they do have a very decent defensive group. And I'm a big fan of how Big Ben has handled himself in a year of uncertainty, especially after coming back from, I wouldn't say horrific injury, but at his age, injuries tend to have a bigger impact. And I'm very impressed with the way he's come back, and he is just absolutely, this is like the Big Ben of old. I mean, he's hard to take down, and he's making throws, and it's very impressive. What's not impressive is the play of Carson Wentz. Now, I will say that he did look better in this game, but he doesn't have weapons. I mean, who is he supposed to throw the ball to, not name Travis Fulgham and Miles Sanders and, the tight ends? He doesn't have anybody. Now, I know I just named three guys, but Travis Fulgham has bounced around 3 teams, and Miles Sanders is a running back. So if you take those guys out and then you just have the tight end, so I mean, definitely, I'm not saying that Carson Wentz he has made some mistakes, but I'm telling you right now, it's not because of a lack of effort. This guy puts in 110% every single down, every single game of every single month. This guy, to me, Carson Wentz is a byproduct of a guy who believes in the system so much that he's willing to do anything for it. And it's unfortunate to see that he's not playing at the level that we know he can. It's tough with your first round wide receiver going down, Jalen Reagor. He looks promising. I've said I think I said last week that they should have taken Justin Jefferson. But we got to see what Reagor can do. He's drafted in the first round for a reason, and hopefully he comes back soon so Carson Wentz can get comfortable with him, and that could be a connection they have for years to come. Now, the defense is just absolutely horrible. They're playing in the NFC East, and it's almost laughable how bad the defenses are in the NFC East. Outside of maybe the football team who has a good front seven, everyone else is just horrible. Joe Judge has done a decent job with the defense. He's a defensive Belichickian guy, so that they're going to be taking accountability, talking about the Giants. But I do believe that the division is wide open, especially with the unfortunate injury to Dak Prescott. My thoughts go to him. I hope a speedy recovery for him. When anybody suffers an injury like that, and I've had my ankle troubles throughout my whole playing career, but I had nothing that bad. And so, I felt a lot of pain in my ankle when I tore some ligaments and some tendons. But I know that doesn't even compare to what he's doing, and I feel so bad for him. Another guy, I've actually talked to people who know Dak, and they have nothing but great things to say about the guy. One of the hardest workers they've ever met. Very unfortunate injury. Especially a guy who's been trying to prove himself and trying to get his money, and playing on the franchise tag to get a bigger contract. And boy, I just hope he can come back and be as productive as he is, because man, he's a great guy and a great player. I know I was talking about the Eagles and kind of went off on a tangent about the Cowboys, but I just wanted to put that out there that we're all thinking of Dak. I'm not a Cowboy fan per se, and I've never really been a big fan of the Cowboys, but I love greatness, and he's definitely been a great player while he's been in the NFL. All right, so moving on. Get something a little bit lighthearted. 30-10 is what the score of the Cardinals to the New York Jets football team. I'm just not even going to talk about the Jets. They're horrible. Management needs to fire Adam Gase. Not Greg Williams. Greg Williams is one of the better coordinators in the league. I know how can you say that about a guy whose defense isn't very good, but trust me, he's a very good head coach, or not a coach, head coach. Sorry, he's a very good coach. And they're going to pay Le'Veon Bell $6 million not to play for their team. So we're Jets fans, I feel for you. I'm so sorry. Anyways, Arizona coming back after a loss last week, scoring up 30 points. Hopefully this is the confidence Kyler needs to continue developing and actually, growing as a very good quarterback. I think he can be that. Unfortunately, they lost Chandler Jones for the year. He's been a great player. This year his statistics have been down a little bit, but since coming over from New England, he has done nothing but produce. So it's a huge blow to their defense losing a guy not only who has production on the field, but he's one of the leaders in the locker room. So I think that the Cardinals are putting together a very good case for a wild card team. But at the end of the day, I do think they're not going to have enough firepower to get into the playoffs, unfortunately. I see this as a 9-7 team, and I think that's their ceiling. But I think they have a high floor relatively. I think seven, anywhere from 7 to 8 wins, I think is what the floor is for this team. I think they're going to be a contender, but I don't think they're actually going to get in. Next year, however, when they reload and hopefully Chandler Jones can come back and be as productive as he has been and go through the draft and some free agency signings and just make this team an even better club. Game of the week, Raiders-Chiefs. The first half of this game was offense, offense, offense. And in the second half, boy, did the defense turn it up. I am starting to wonder if last week really got to Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't his normal self. We've seen him make some outrageous plays, but the last 2 weeks, he just hasn't looked himself. There's some throws that he usually makes that he just didn't hit. And I'm not talking about the no-look passes or, left-handed lobs. I'm just talking about 5-yard outs, 10-yard dig routes. He just hasn't been as sharp. And as great as he's been for the, 2.5 seasons that he's played, if this is the only dry spell, I wouldn't even be worried. And honestly, I'm not even worried about Patrick Mahomes. We know that this guy is a baller. So Chiefs fans took a tough loss. Can't win them all, unless if you're the 72 Dolphins. But use this as a film in the film room and come back and be stronger next week. But on the other side, Raiders, it was a great performance from Derek Carr. He has weapons. He's got Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs is a man. And Josh Jacobs is a great player, and I don't know if he gets enough recognition. He's a beast with the ball in his hand, man. And this Raider team can score points. Now, the trouble with them is defense. They do have some nice pieces. Is it Max Crosby? He's a very good player, underrated from, I think, Eastern Michigan. They have Jonathan Abram at safety. He's a thumper. So they do have some, and I think Corey Littleton came over from the Rams in free agency. So they have pieces at every single level to build on. And so in free agency and then through the draft, I think they're going to be defense heavy. I think John Gruden has got this team going in the right direction, and they are playoff bound. I really do believe. They're 3-2, and the Chiefs are 4-1. So I think that puts them at second in the division. I don't think they're going to win it, but I definitely think they're going to be the number one wild card spot. Next game, Jacksonville at Houston. We see this a lot with interim head coaches when they win their first game. Houston's won 30-14. Romeo Crennel has been around for a long time. He was a head coach of the Chiefs, I believe, at one point. So he knows how to act as a head coach and how to run things. So to get some stabilization there after the firing of O'Brien, very nice to see. They still have some key contributors, right? J.J. Watt, however, has been declining as of late, talking about the last few years, especially with the injuries. And they have Deshaun Watson, who, man, this Houston team has had a tough go of it this first 5 games of the year, going up against Kansas City and Baltimore open up the year. But they did it last year where they were 0-3 and then came back and won the playoffs. And the AFC South is, I wouldn't say wide open, but it's definitely not a lock. The Colts are defeatable. I don't know why I use defeatable there. That's not really a good word to use, but they're not invincible. And Jacksonville, however, they have some nice pieces. They're not going to be a playoff team for at least 1.5 years, 2 years. And, and I forgot Tennessee. Tennessee now we saw, so I don't know, maybe I take that back. Houston's going to have a tough road to the playoffs. That happens when you're 0-4 and 0-3. It's kind of sad to see. You got playmakers on offense. Will Fuller looks good. The name of the tight end is escaping me, but he's from UCF. He's really good too. maybe they can pull it out, but I don't know. Maybe they can compete for that second wild card spot. And then Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew. We know what Gardner Minshew is at this point. I mean, this is only year 2, but he's a guy who's going to be a starting caliber quarterback for years to come. And give him weapons. He's going to be a very capable starter. I mean, he's got Laviska Shenault, who looks really good. DJ Chark's a deep threat and who can catch the ball over the middle of the field. James Robinson's a very capable runner and catcher of the football. They have a pretty decent offensive line. The problem with this team is defense. Going from Saxonville to what they are now is almost like a decade in between them. Not too long ago, I think, was it 4 years ago, this team was in the AFC Championship game, and now here they are, 1-4, one of the worst teams in the league. I don't believe that they want Trevor Lawrence. I think they have their guy in Gardner Minshew. And think about it. Would you rather pay a guy on 6th round money to be a capable distributor of the football, or would you rather get a guy who's a first round talent who you're going to have to pay first round money, and not only first overall money, to be the same thing? And you don't know about Trevor. You just don't know. I mean, yeah, he's great in college, but does his game translate to the NFL? You just don't know until he suits up week 1 of his rookie season. Next game. It's talking about number 1 overall picks. Joe Burrow was only able to muster 3 points against the Ravens, while the Ravens scored 27. They took an L in this game, so now the Bengals are 3-1. We've seen that Joe Burrow is a top 15 quarterback in this league and has shown some good qualities in his rookie season. It's just the offensive line play. I mean, he has weapons. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about AJ Green because, it's kind of sad. He, one of the best wide receivers in the game gets injured and then comes back and just doesn't look as good. You just hate to see that. But Tyler Boyd looks good. Drew Sample looks good. Joe Mixon's really good. So, I mean, they have some key pieces, right, outside of quarterback. They just need to invest in some offensive line and in defense. If there is a top offensive lineman at the top of the draft available when Cincinnati is picking, I hope they pick that offensive lineman because Joe Burrow definitely needs it. You can even see in his days at LSU, he was running for his life at certain times. So he really needs a quarterback or an offensive line because he's been taking some shots, and you just don't want to see an Andrew Luck situation here. Ravens got things going again. 27 points is a lot of points. They had some struggles, and Lamar's not been happy. But winning cures everything. So if come back next week and the Ravens win, you're not going to hear a lot from Lamar complaining. And for anyone wondering, I don't think Trace McSorley is coming in the game anytime soon, unfortunately. Next game, I talked about the Falcons a little bit with the firing of Dan Quinn. They lost 23-16 to the Panthers, who are now 3-2, who are giving the Buccaneers a run at their money. Matt Rule has done an excellent job with that organization. I talked about it last week, but I said that he's changing the culture here. But not to say that Ron Rivera had a bad culture. He's just changing it to his liking. Teddy Bridgewater has looked really good. I'm really happy for Teddy. Just like Alex Smith. However, his injury was not as devastating. Teddy had a pretty bad knee injury and then goes to New Orleans, learns under one of the greatest of all time, and Drew Brees, and then finally gets a starting gig and has shown that he's a capable quarterback in this league. And, if they want to continue this trend, DJ Moore's got to be better, and I think he will. He's a very good player. And they have some pieces on the offensive line. Robbie Anderson is really good. And I think they have Ian Thomas, who I think is an underrated player. I don't think he's a great player, but I just don't think people give him enough credit for what he does. And, Mike Davis has stepped in and done wonders in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. This team could make it to the playoffs. And if anything, they could win the division. Just depends on how well Tom Brady plays. On the flip side, I've heard some rumblings that maybe the Falcons should move on from Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. See, I'm not a big proponent of blowing a team up and getting rid of all of your good players. I mean, one, Matt Ryan is the best quarterback Atlanta has ever had, and Julio Jones has surpassed Roddy White as the greatest Atlanta Falcon receiver of all time. So 2 legends of your franchise you want to get rid of? I just don't understand that. Now, I wonder if it's due to the play calling, because when I look at this team on paper, Matt Ryan, very good quarterback. Julio Jones, one of the best wide receivers. Calvin Ridley, a breakout star this year. I look at the offensive line. Alex Mack has been around for a long time. He's a good center. What's his name? Matthews on the tackle, the left tackle. Jake Matthews, he's really good. He's a solid stalwart at that position. Caleb McGrady, they had a first round. They used a first rounder on him, and he's looked like a capable starter in the limited playing time he's had due to injury. There are some pieces on the offense, and they have Todd Gurley, who has shown that he's been a capable back in his career. This team, we know, can score points, so it's more on the defense. They have some pieces, right? They have Deion Jones and a couple of guys on the back end. However, they're just decimated with injuries, so I don't know if you can put it all on Dan Quinn. But I do think that a change was needed. Now, the upset of the week. Miami goes into, I almost wanted to say Candlestick, goes into Levi Stadium and drops 43 points on the San Francisco 49er defense. What? We got Fitzmagic. So we can expect Ryan Fitzpatrick in a week's time or a week or two time. But, if you've been listening to the podcast for the last couple of weeks, I've said that, if Miami continues in this trend, Tua isn't going to play for at least until week 12, week 14. If the Dolphins get eliminated in the playoffs by then I believe that Tua will get in. But when they're in the thick of it, they're sitting at 2-3. There's a lot of teams in the AFC that aren't too far ahead. You got the Raiders 3-2, and the Colts 3-2. Browns are 4-1. They may be a little outside of their capabilities, but you got some teams here who aren't particularly good in the AFC. So the Dolphins could squeak in as a playoff team, and Brian Flores has had that team going in the right direction. Kudos to him, another Belichickian guy who preaches accountability. And you can definitely see that in this Dolphins team. They're making strides. And on the flip side, can we say that San Francisco's been the disappointment of the year? Jimmy Garoppolo straight up got benched, not protected. No, he was benched for horrible play in this game. That's not a good sign. And I don't want to put it all on the defense not having Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas, but they do have Fred Warner, who all of last year people said that should have been the defensive player of the year. Without him, this defense doesn't go anywhere. They have Eric Armstead still, so they have some good pieces on that defense. So I don't know what's going on here. I had them top 5 in the league in terms of power rankings going into the year. Now here they are sitting at 2-3, not even sniffing the playoffs. This is, if I'm a 49er fan, I'm panicking, right? You know, we're paying Jimmy Garoppolo all this money and he gets benched against the Dolphins? Oh boy. And they were in the Super Bowl last year too. So I would say that San Francisco has been the disappointment of the year. I don't know, man. Kudos to Miami for going in there and dropping 43 on what was supposed good defense. All right, next up, talking about the Cowboys and Giants game. You know, like I touched on it before. So it's so unfortunate what happened to Dak. My thoughts are with him. I hope he's got a speedy recovery. But I wouldn't panic if I'm a Cowboy fan. Andy Dalton has been a capable starter in this league for a long time. He went to the playoffs 5 straight years as the quarterback of some Cincinnati teams who were actually pretty good, and he had something to do with it. You know, he had A.J. Green in his prime, and he had Jeremy Hill. That's a blast from the past almost. And you know, so I wouldn't panic if I'm a Cowboy fan. You know, the East is still wide open. You're leading the East, so you're probably going to get into the playoffs anyways. So the only thing that I'm worried about is the defense. DeMarcus Lawrence hasn't been as good as we've seen. You know, losing Sean Lee and Leighton Vander Esch is big. But, you know, Jalen Smith has got to step up. Guys on the interior got to step up. And guys in the secondary also got to step up. I mean, just at all 3 levels of the defense, they have to step up. Now, on the flip side, kudos to the Giants for scoring 34 points. However, Danny Dimes had a crucial turnover in this game. And, you know, he has improved his accuracies this year. But the fumble issue is still there. And, you know, I'm a Daniel Jones guy through and through. I think he's going to be a very good player in this league, but that's only if he can control the turnovers. Because, you know, with the ball in your hand as a quarterback, it's your job to distribute the ball to places where it gives your team the best shot to win. And when you're turning the ball over as much as he has in his first year and a half in the league, you're not going to be around for a long time. So he needs to be better. And I know losing Saquon is bad, but Saquon doesn't throw the football for your football team. You do. And you have some capable weapons. You know, Evan Ingram is a mismatch at tight end. Darius Slayton has shown that he's a capable NFL wide receiver. So this team is only going to go as far as Daniel Jones takes them. Next up, one of the surprising teams of the year, the Browns have beaten the Colts 32-23. And the Browns are rocking and rolling. Stefanski took his power run scheme from Minnesota and has hit strides here in Cleveland. Cleveland looks like a completely different ball club from last year. They're running the ball with effectively. They're playing good on defense. Myles Garrett is earning every single penny of his new contract. And Denzel Ward is a budding star in this league at corner. So very, very good things coming out of Cleveland. A franchise in which has been struggling for some consistency. And I'm not talking just at the player level. I'm talking about at the franchise level. When was the last time the Browns had back-to-back winning seasons? It's not going to happen this year, but it might happen next year. And the Browns may make a run at the AFC South or AFC North. They're tied with the Ravens. And I know they got smoked week 1 by said Ravens. But now that they're 5 weeks in, they have tape on themselves. But more importantly, they have tape on the Baltimore Ravens. And they have shown that they aren't invincible. So I wouldn't be surprised if they win the North. Now on the flip side, Phillip Rivers is not the long-term answer. We know this because of A, his age, and B, his arm strength. He's not able to drive the ball down the field like he once could. Father time catches up with some guys harder than it does others, and I think that he has caught up to Phillip in one of the worst ways possible. I still think this team is going to make it to the playoffs. They have a very good defense. They have pieces on offense, and they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. So Frank Reich has got this team going in the right direction. Colts fans, don't worry at all. You guys are going to be fine. Next up, Seattle and Minnesota. Seattle had a scare. They only won by 1 point against a Viking team who came out this week, and they choked. They choked. They had a lead, gave it away right at the end of the game. Seattle goes down, wins the ball game. Now you drop to 1-4. And when you're in a division where you have the Packers, who are 4-0, and the Bears, who are 4-1, things are looking grim. Now, I've said this before. I don't think Mike Zimmer should be fired. He's a very good head coach. I just don't understand why this defense isn't playing to the level at which we know they can. You have Yannick Ngakoue, one of the better pass rushers in the league. Now, is it just because that he's not as good as we thought he was? Playing against probably lower competition in the AFC South. They have a lot of young corners, so that does have a lot to do with it. But offensively, Dalvin Cook 8 in this game. Adam Thielen 8. Justin Jefferson was good. Kirk Cousins actually looked capable. So, they lost, and they're probably not going to make the playoffs, but this is an encouraging sign for Vikings fans. And I do think, just one quick note here, I do think the loss of Stephon Diggs is really hurting this team. Not too much to talk about Seattle. We know they're really good on offense. They got a capable offensive line now. They do have some questions on defense, but I think they're good enough to where their offense can outscore the other team's offense with the way their defense plays. Monday night game, another thriller, Saints and Chargers. Justin Herbert makes a case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, who would have thought that 7 months ago when the draft process was coming out? Everybody thought, all right, Joe Burrow's going number 1, probably going to win Rookie of the Year, and that's going to be that. Not so fast. Justin Herbert has looked really good. Tossed 4 touchdowns in this game. He absolutely torched the Saints defense. And, he has made some rookie mistakes and has cost his team some ball games. But they have a talented defense. They have some pieces on offense. Anthony Lynn is a very good head coach. So I'm thinking in the back of my head, all right, my team's 1-4. We're in the same division as the Raiders and the Chiefs. Probably not going to win the division. How about we learn more about our rookie quarterback, play our younger guys, see what we have, and then come back next year and reload. I said that a few weeks ago, and I'm standing by that. I believe in this Chargers team in 2021, not so much in 2020. On the flip side, Saints, they are 3-2, but I think that record is deceiving. I'm not a huge fan of the way Drew Brees has been playing, and I'm an even bigger fan, but I'm more concerned about the defense, is what I'm trying to say with this Saints team. Cameron Jordan hasn't been as dominant as he has been in past few years. Same thing can be said for Marshawn Lattimore. Demario Davis, we are seeing some regression. He's 30-something, 33, I think. Like I said earlier with Phillip Rivers, Father Time catches up with some guys better or faster than others, and I think we're seeing that here with Demario Davis. Great player. Still going to be a very good, capable starter for the rest of his contract. But Sean Payton can't be happy. They won, but they gave up 27 points. And I know that Sean is I wouldn't say perfectionist, but he expects things to get done in the right way. And giving up 27 points to a rookie quarterback, or not a rookie quarterback, Or no, yeah, they gave up 27 points to a rookie quarterback. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. He can't be happy, and I don't know if he's going to be able to turn it around. I mean, they lost against Green Bay, one of the better teams in the NFL, looked horrible. Here they come, play Chargers, and looked horrible. So this defense has got some question marks. And at this point, I bet on the Panthers getting that second place in the South more than I do the Saints. I just don't believe in the Saints for this year. And then the final game, Tuesday night football, which hasn't happened in, I think, almost a decade. 42-16. Titans come over after not playing last week due to COVID and absolutely dominate this game. Derrick Henry did not have the yardage that you would like to see from him, but he had one of the most dominant stiff arms I've ever seen in my life, and he scored 2 touchdowns. So when the carries counted, he definitely came up big for his team. Ryan Tannehill made some plays offensively. We're starting to see that, Ryan Tannehill needed a change of scenery from Miami. Now, maybe it was the head coach, Adam Gase, or maybe it was just a change of scenery, and he's, come here and he's looked very good. On the flip side of that, Josh Allen did not look very good in this game. Now, if 1 in every 5 games turns out to be meh for Josh Allen, I think people are going to take that. If I'm a Bills fan and you come to me and say, listen, Josh Allen, 4 games out of 5 games is going to light it up every week, but he's going to have a game where he looks, I would definitely take that because I have a capable defense and some quality starters in the backfield. It's unfortunate that they lost 42-16, but they were going to win the East and the AFC. They're going to probably win 11 games and be one of the better teams in the league. Like I said with who lost with the Chiefs. Yeah, the Chiefs can't win them all. And on the it is kind of demoralizing. You lose 42-16 to a team who didn't even practice last week. So hopefully they can put things together, and I think they will. I don't think they have any. They have really any teams that are going to compete for them. We know that the incapable New York Jets aren't going to be a very big threat to them. The Patriots might be. Cam Newton's coming back this week. And the Dolphins I don't think, are going to make a run at the East. So it's been the NFL talk. This one went a little long than I had expected. This has been, I think this has been the longest podcast. So, with the departure of MLB games and the NHL and the NBA, these podcasts are going to start turning into the NFL podcast until around spring training around there. So I hope you enjoyed Week 5 of the Aces Let's Do It podcast. And I've been your host, Dominic Archer. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you go check out the Instagram page. Thanks for listening, guys.